Hello friends, this is Worm and it's Monday, so it's time for another episode of Exotic Recrafting. And today I have 3 exotic bows on the menu for some changes. And I want to, really point out these are just changes. I think we've kind of moved past the point where we're talking about bad exotics, and now we're talking about exotics that probably, like, they're not the worst, they're very niche maybe. They just need some buffs here and there, or some changes, not necessarily some buffs, but some changes to become better. And that's actually where we're going to start today. And I've chose, like I said, 3 exotic bows that could use some changes to make them better. And I'm going to start off with Tiku's Divination, because Tiku's Divination is a fantastic bow, but it's just lacking a certain thing that would bring it to just up another level. And that is, of course, solar synergy. Now, I think the reason why it doesn't have solar synergy currently is because of the way Sacred Flame works, and the way the catalyst, like causality arrows and stuff, works, makes it difficult to code it as a scorching weapon. Like, obviously, like in my mind, the perfect scenario would be your hipfire arrows scorch targets, and then your ADS arrow ignites those targets, similar to Consecration. That first wave scorches, the second one ignites, similar to there. I would leave it up to Bungie on how to fix this, or how to change this rather, because when you cause a one of those explosions with Tiku's Divination, that explosion will ignite all the other enemies that are burning with Sacred Flame. And of course, if we change it to just Scorch and Ignitions, that wouldn't happen with, maybe without having the, what's it called, the artifacts, or no, sorry, the fragment that allows your ignitions to scorch other targets. But I think that Tiku's would do so well with just a little bit of solar synergy, just the ability to actually ignite targets and scorch targets. It would build into our solar aspects and fragments and stuff like that. So that's the first change I want to talk about for Tiku's Divination. Moving on to the second bow that I feel it could use a similar change is Trinity Ghoul. And Trinity Ghoul, of course, is already like one of the kings of ad clear, like Sunshot, Trinity Ghoul, Graviton Lance. They are all very good at ad clear, and Trinity Ghoul could be just the way that I'm seeing it could be just a little bit better is if it had some sort of jolt built into it. And the best way that I thought of on how to make Trinity Ghoul jolt targets is simply by adding Volt Shot to it. Because, of course, the reason why Trinity Ghoul doesn't jolt currently is because those arrows, those lightning rods, whatever you want to call them, they don't, you don't have to hit targets for those to chain lightning. In fact, most people in a really ad dense environment get lightning rod active, and they just hip fire at the ground, and that will shock all the enemies in the area. Well, of course, if you change Trinity Ghoul's lightning effect to jolt, you couldn't do that anymore, because jolt does not go from the environment to enemies, it only goes from enemy to enemy. But if you added Volt Shot onto the weapon, you get that first kill. You have 7 or 6 seconds, however long it is, to shoot, the ground. That chain lightning from the base perk would chain and kill. If Bungie wanted to allow that to count for a Volt Shot kill, that's fine. But if not, you could aim it at, say, a low-level enemy. It would shock, it would electrocute everything around it. It would also jolt that target, which would apply just a tiny bit more damage, because jolt doesn't have a whole lot of damage. But then, of course, it could synergize with Arc 3.0. It could synergize with making, what are they called? Ionic Traces. Sorry, I couldn't think of the name. Making Ionic Traces come back to the player and stuff like that. And I think that would be a really, really simple change that they could make to Trinity Ghoul, just to elevate it just a little bit further. Because Trinity Ghoul, like, it's literally shooting lightning bolts. Like, why would you not want to have it synergize with Arc 3.0? Like, I mean, again, why Bungie hasn't done it, I'm sure they have their reasons, but I would love to see that happen to Trinity Ghoul. Same thing with Tiku's Divination. But yeah, those are the first 2 bows I want to talk about that they don't need a whole lot of help. They just need something a little bit more to make them feel just even better to use. Sunshot, for example. Sunshot has synergy with Scorch. Sunshot will scorch targets. So give these 2 bows the ability to synergize with our subclass 3.0. But that leads us to our last bow. And this bow is one of the newer ones, Hierarchy of Needs. And it comes from Spire the Watcher. In case you don't know, it comes from Spire the Watcher. In fact, I got mine the second time I cleared Spire the Watcher, way back when it launched. Of course, I didn't get the catalyst till just a couple weeks ago because I'm lazy and don't do master dungeons. But I was using hierarchy of needs, and it didn't feel very good to use. Like, it's a very niche weapon, and I think that it has so much potential, but some changes do have to be made to the weapon. So what does hierarchy of needs need? Sorry, no pun intended, right? But the first thing that I think that it needs to have is the ability to turn that guidance ring that you fire. And this is one of the most frustrating things on really any level of content is, you know, I'm trying to shoot enemies and I shoot the bow, I shoot the ring out. All of a sudden enemies are coming slightly from the left or slightly from the right. And then my circle goes from like this shape to like this shape, right? Because I'm shooting, you know, if you turn a circle on its side, it becomes much harder to shoot through. That's what ends up happening, and it's frustrating, and I would love to see Bungie change it so that that ring will turn with the Guardian that has hierarchy of needs equipped. And I think that maybe the reason they haven't done that so far is because that ring exists for other players too. It's not a solo instance. It exists for all players, but I think that they could probably work in a way to have it so that anybody using hierarchy of needs, that ring will turn with you. So if you are shooting straight forward, you have that ring out, but you need to turn slightly to the left or slightly to the right, or even turn all the way around, something like that. Whatever you want to, you know, whatever you want to do, that ring will kind of turn with you, right? Like this, you know. That would be so nice. That would make the weapon feel a lot more intuitive to use. And I think that's one of the biggest things that it needs. In terms of like its damage and stuff, I think that its damage is pretty good. Like the ability to fire off, you know, those 3 arrows when you're shooting through a guidance ring, like that's a lot of damage that you're putting out. But really the guidance ring is the biggest inhibitor of the weapon. Now, one of the other things I was thinking about was how hierarchy of needs used to synergize with Warmind cells. And Warmind cells are now gone from the game, and it kind of sucks because, you know, at one point you could have a massive ring, like a huge ring, and it was a lot of fun if you destroyed a Warmind cell with hierarchy of needs. Of course, they have since removed Warmind cells, so you can't do that anymore. And so one of the things I would like to see is maybe a way to enhance the size of those rings, you know, maybe by killing a certain target with X amount of health, maybe by doing specific things like, you know, have some hoops to jump through, but having the ability to make a massive ring, that way you have just a larger area that you can, you know, stand around and shoot through. And especially if you add that to the change where you have the ring follow the direction you're facing, I think it would be tremendous. I think that hierarchy needs would definitely bump up in terms of its usage rate, because especially with a catalyst, it's a really strong bow, but it's inhibited by the fact that you really have to stay planted. And really any weapon that requires you to stay planted is not going to fare well in Destiny 2, because of the simple fact that Destiny is a high action game. There's a lot of movement, you know, you've got class abilities going on, you know, like Hunter Dodge, you have double jumps, you have supers, you have high ability uptime. Like Destiny is obviously a fast paced game, and locking yourself down to a specific area should really come with some high upsides to it. And right now, hierarchy needs it doesn't have that. So I would like to see the ring turn. I would also like to see a way to get that mega ring back. I think that would be cool. And maybe you could have a situation where like the more players on your team that are using hierarchy of needs, the bigger that ring gets. You know, if I've got a raid team with six people using hierarchy of needs, and I shoot that ring off, that ring is gigantic. It's massive, big enough for everybody to easily shoot through. But if I'm just have, you know, there's just 2 people that are on my team with that ring, it's a little bit bigger, but it's not, you know, a massive ring that takes up, you know, 10-12 meters, something like that. But I don't know, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. Those are some changes that I thought we could make to these bows. Again, with the first 2 Tikus and Trinity Ghoul, they're already great the way they are. I just want to see subclass synergy, but really hierarchy of needs is the one that's I feel really needs the most help, because it's mediocre, and locking yourself down in one position doesn't feel very good in Destiny. So yeah, I want to hear your thoughts though. What do you think on these bows? What do you think about adding subclass synergy to the first 2, and what do you think about my changes for the hierarchy of needs? Let me know all that stuff in the comments below. Of course, if you like today's video, do me a favor, hit the like button, helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content, and guys, do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason YouTube thinks you'll like them. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.